Welcome everyone, Aesha Kennedy, Shakti Creative Power. I've been having wonderful conversations with women around power, around creative power, and what that means, and especially what gets in the way of us stepping more fully into our power so that we can be the fullest expression of what we're meant to and to bring the work through in a more expansive way, whatever our gifts are, whatever our work is. So today I'm excited because I'm going to talk about a juicy subject about money and the true power of money. And so I want to just jump right into it. My guest today is Tamsin Young. And maybe just before I start to get into a conversation, can you just introduce yourself a little bit, like what you do, what your specialty is around money?
Thank you, Aisha. It's wonderful to be here. I love talking about money, and power is really one of those things of what holds us back. So, I'm a money mindset coach, and what I do is I've spent pretty much most of my working life working in as a tax accountant, and everything's always been very reactive in that field. And I wanted people to be more proactive with their money and where they were going instead of this constant struggle. And thought there's more to it than just taking practical action and understanding the practical side of things. Otherwise, people like me, accountants, financial planners, by the time that we got to age 30, we would all be millionaires. We could all retire and leave everybody else working out what is the secret. So there had to be more than having that practical knowledge. So I've always had an interest on the side of working with energy, working with alternative therapies, and I've studied a lot of them. And it was only in the last probably 5 years that somebody said to me, "Why don't you combine the two of them together?" And I was like, "Oh, interesting. Oh, wow." Because I thought it had to be one or the other. Either you're the accountant or I'm an energy worker. And it made such sense to me. It was like bringing the yin and the yang together, the energy side, which is incredibly important. And to me, it's the first step that we need to do. But sometimes we get so caught up on working on our mindset, our energy, and getting everything right that we don't take any practical action. So my role, I see, is to be able to bring these two sides together, that I can help people see where their beliefs are around money, what is their money story, where are they being held back, how can we change that, and then how can they translate that into something practical in the world that they can actually see the physical results in their life as well.
Mm, I love that marriage. I love how you say it's the yin and the yang coming together. That's like the feminine and masculine energies, because you can't have one and not the other. It doesn't actually
Absolutely.
work. And
Absolutely.
also that whole idea of being reactive to our money and what's going on in our finances and reacting all the time to it, rather than having that other space of, yeah, like you said, being more proactive in it. So I wanted to ask you, as the money mindset expert, and you deal with women who are coming to you, what are some of the most common? I know what my money my money things are, but what are some of the most common money stories or thoughts that get in the way of women being prosperous and being abundant?
I'm not good enough, which
Ah,
is probably the major one, and what a lot of it comes down to, in that I'm not good enough as a person, I'm not good enough in the work that I do. One of the reasons why we are always studying, I think studying is wonderful, expanding what we know and we understand, but when it comes from a place of fear of, "Oh my God, I should be doing that, I need to have another modality and that will make the biggest difference." No, it's not going to make the difference. Believing in what you offer is what makes the difference, because I've studied a lot of theory. So, I'm just as guilty as everybody else with making these mistakes as well. And, you know, they all work. One isn't better than the other. Different ones resonate with us. And you have to work with what works well with you. And that is what's going to create the difference. Um, Looking for somebody else to rescue them, waiting for, because we grow up on these fairy tales of the knight in shining armor, Prince Charming coming along, and yet the divorce rate out there is very high, and women will often find themselves on their own, either through divorce, maybe through losing a partner, through divorce or through death, or maybe their partner can no longer do the work that they were doing, and suddenly that financial responsibility falls on them, and they don't necessarily have the skills to be able to do it, and they don't have that belief, again, I'm not good enough, to be able to do that, to be able to use the gifts that I have to be able to create a living, to create that abundance and financial wealth in my family to support them. It just can't happen. It's not something that will. It's they're mutually exclusive. I can do what I love, but I'm not going to make sufficient money from it.
Mm.
And what else is there? There's so many of them. But a lot of it is just thinking, I can't do it. And that whole, the man has to provide.
Yeah, I think that is a big story for women. Um, I think it's changing a little bit now because we have more opportunities. The internet and being online and having businesses online, even if there are children, that you're raising children, you can still create a business. So it is changing, but I think those old stories get carried through generation after generation. They're probably even in our DNA and in our cells, and we don't realize that that's there holding us back. Do you find that true when you're working with women?
Absolutely. And I think you're quite correct. We are in an era now of things changing and at a grassroots level that a lot of women, they've been out in the corporate world and they've gone, this doesn't work for me. They've suffered the burnout, they've worked long hours, and yeah, they've made good money, but they've gone, no, I'm not interested in that anymore. So working long hours is another one of those beliefs that stop us because they've seen what they've had to do to earn that good money. So when they come into their business, they go, I don't want to repeat that. So they've gone, I'm not going to work those long hours. Therefore, I'm not going to earn the money that I did.
Yeah.
But they do have the opportunity now, as you said, with the internet. And I think now in the current climate with the pandemic, where a lot of people haven't necessarily got their own business, but they're working and they're now working from home, that they've gone, I don't have to be in an office. I don't have to do that traveling. I can actually work from home in my own time in a way that supports me, supports my family, and I can do a job and get out there and do it. So it doesn't have to be an either or. You have to be an entrepreneur out there offering a service. You can still be an employee and gain the benefits and do what you do and do it well. So people mustn't think that the only way to make a lot of money is through entrepreneurship. But absolutely, current climate technology is the best ground, most fertile ground we could possibly have for being able to springboard what we want and how we do it, and for being able to reach so many people. I mean, how else could you be sitting in your home and reach somebody in every single, if they've got internet, they can get to learn from you.
Yeah, it's such a wide open world. And I want to touch on what you said about working long hours because I think one of my core beliefs around money had been and still lingers is like, I have to work hard.
Mhm.
And so even if you have worked in the corporate world many, many moons ago, but that working hard, even as you translate it into the freedom of doing something, say, on the internet, that if that belief is still there, like I have to work hard in order to make money, and if I don't, I won't, that could be really a stumbling block, can't it?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of it is the guilt that comes with, oh, it can actually be easy. I don't have to work 40 hours a week, 60, 80, whatever it might be. And there's this perception that people are going to think, oh, wow, isn't she lazy? She's not, she's only working 10 or 20 hours a week and she's earning all that money. How lazy can you be? She should be working harder because we've got to be out there at the grindstone, with our nose at the grindstone, pushing things and making it's that whole swimming upstream belief that we have. It's got to be hard, that we've got to have that struggle. We can have those struggles and those challenges without working hard. You know, the universe will provide us with those challenges. We don't have to make it hard for ourselves and add all these other little things with it. We can go, right, how can I do less and achieve more?
Yeah.
And doing that,
Yes.
achieving less, or doing less and achieving more, it comes with its own challenges, because as I say, we feel guilty, we feel ashamed of doing that. And to be able to change that, to go, you know what, there is more to life. Yes, I want to change millions of women's lives around the world, but I don't have to devote 24/7 of my life to doing it. I can have a life of my own. I can enjoy time with my family. I can have that work balance. And work balance is one of those beautiful words that we use. What is it? It's not a 50-50. When you're in your 20s, it can be very, very different to what you're going to be when you're in your 30s, your 50s, your 70s, whatever. Because if you're single, if you're married, if you have children, if you've got children with problems, whatever it might be, you've got aging parents, it can be different factors in your life that determine how much time you can and you want to devote to your work, and how much time you can devote to your family and the community. So there's never a stock standard answer of what is right. You have to feel into it. And a lot of my work is a framework. You spoke earlier about the yin and the yang, and the feminine and the masculine. And it's not about just embracing, oh, we must move to the feminine side of things. We have to have, again, that balance. Now, that balance doesn't have to be 50-50. We can all be at different places on that scale. But I believe that that male, the masculine, provides the framework for us to work within. And the yin, the feminine, it's the river. So the male is the river bank, and it provides all that beautiful support for the feminine, the river, to flow down and do what it needs to do. And that river might have stages where it flows down beautifully and it's just this calm river. It will have times where it's going over the rapids and we're going, what's happening? And it may become a waterfall, just, and we just think, oh my God, what is happening in my world? And then it falls into this pool and everything is calm again. And then it goes off. So that feminine can have all sorts of journeys, but it is always supported by that masculine, that framework that we have. And we get to decide what that framework is. We get to decide what supports us, what's important for us.
Hmm. Oh, I love that imagery. I often use that in some of the yoga classes that I teach about, having the widening the riverbank so that the flow can be greater. And it's a beautiful image, and having that structure and scaffold and support for the feminine energy to flow through. Yeah, beautiful. I really like that, Tamsin. I wanted to ask about, we're talking about money, but there's also abundance. So I wanted to know, like, do you feel there's a difference between like just focusing on money or focusing on abundance, or both, or how do you approach that?
Um, okay, so abundance is a very nice word, and it can sometimes be used as a euphemism because nobody wants to use the word money,
Ah, yeah.
because it's money's a little bit dirty and it's vulgar to talk about money. So it can be used as an avoidance word. Abundance is beautiful, absolutely, don't get me wrong. But I like to talk about money because we shouldn't talk about it. And there is a certain power in actually using that word. Let's talk about it. What is it about money? Money actually itself doesn't have the power. It's what we ascribe to it that makes it powerful, what we think it can achieve. And money is one of those things, power is one of those things that I think we can have a lot of negative connotations about power because of the power that we see in the world, the
Yep.
power of fighting, and we've got to take control of another country. And so we see that there's a lot of not caring about the people involved. You think of the wars and the people that were sent to war, and they were just cannon fodder. And the people up here didn't care about them. So that can be a lot of what we associate with power. And we go, I don't want anything to do with that. That's awful. But if we take the other side of power and look at it from a positive perspective, and you think, if I actually have influence and I can be powerful, what changes can I create in the world? And if I have a lot of money, I can create a lot of change in the world. So money doesn't buy happiness, and we don't have to have money to be happy. But it can make a big difference for a lot of people in providing basic equipment. If you think of third world countries where they don't have the basics of water, of education, and things like that, we can, by using money, we can supply them with those resources. That is powerful. That is creating change at the grassroots level. By loaning money through, I think it's that organization, Kiva, where they give loans to businesses and they repay them, and it helps people to get a start in the business. So it's not just charity. Here, I'm giving you $100, aren't I good? You're actually empowering that person to create a future for their family. But if we don't have that extra money, if we're living and struggling to meet our own needs, then how can we go out and help other people by giving them these resources? So, I believe a rising tide lifts all boats. The more, the wealthier we can get, and the more money and abundance that we have in our life, it enables us to spread that out in the world. It's not about getting money so that I've got a bigger bank account than you, so therefore I'm obviously better than you. It's not about comparing who has more than the other person. It's about creating the lifestyle that you want, being able to then outsource some of those things that you don't want to do. For me, I just think of the basics like cleaning my house. Well, if I can outsource that to somebody else who wants to do that, and that money enables them to care for their family, well, it's a win-win situation. So it's that whole ripple effect of, as I accept abundance and money into my life, I can spread that wealth into the community. It's not about giving more for myself so that I can have the most. We're not playing Monopoly where, the person with the biggest bank balance at the end of the day, yes, you're the winner. We're not looking at winners or losers. We're looking at how can we work as a community? How can we build this up? So money to me is part of abundance.
Yeah.
But it's a part that people often don't want to talk about because, as I say, it's those connotations.
Mm.
And a lot of it is because we're not taught how to deal with money. We don't, we aren't taught the skills. So we think we're bad. We get that guilt, we get that shame of, well, I don't want to talk about and admit that I'm actually not very good, and that I've got all this debt and I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know how to create a balance with my money between looking after my current needs, looking after my future needs, giving my children the best opportunities, etc., etc.
Mm. Oh, thank you. You speak my language because saying, power, this is the whole idea of having these conversations is to start to reframe or think of power in a very different way. It's true power. It's the collaborative, the compassionate, the collective, it's inclusive. And what we see out there is not there yet. But for each of us, as we take those steps towards owning our true power, then everything starts to shift. The paradigm will shift. So I really appreciate your beautiful and important work and saying the word money and, knowing and distinguishing that between abundance and money. That's really, really, that helped me a lot. And I hope it helps the listeners because
Yeah.
people do use the word abundance a lot or prosperity. I use prosperity a lot. And I'm a little bit reticent about saying money, but after hearing you, it's so true. That ripple out effect is incredible what we can actually do and achieve by just taking back that power that we have to create money. Yeah.
Mm. And I think another thing that I think is really important is that women feel confident in themselves, that they know they don't have to be dependent on somebody else, that they make decisions for their life based on what is right for them, not from a place of fear and scarcity. Oh, I need to go into this relationship because he can care for me, he can put a roof over my head, food in mine and my children's tummy, and they end up being abused. And then they are not in a position to be able to walk away from it because they have nothing. So I want to see a world where women can take care of themselves.
Yeah.
It's not excluding men and going, we don't need men. It's not that at all. But that a man and a woman can come together because they want to be together.
Yeah, without the need and without the fear.
Yep.
I think that you touched on that about the fear and scarcity. And so that's a particular feeling in the body when there's fear and you're feeling lack or feeling that things are scarce. There's a particular energy in the body that feels very contracted. And I wanted to ask you, like, what processes do you use with your clients to help? Because I think it starts also with, opening yourself up on that level in order to create what we're talking about, to create money and to do, good in the world and let it ripple out.
Yeah. So my favorite technique is tapping or EFT. One, because it is so simple. Two, you don't need any complicated tools. You can do it anywhere. You don't have to have me to take you through something. It's something that you can do on a daily basis, and it's really easy to learn. And breath work, using that to heart coherence. So breath work and heart coherence are not the same thing, but that whole thing, breath work, can change your physiological state. And heart coherence, just that moving into that gratitude and appreciation, those feelings, because our heart is the portal to the divine matrix, the universe, whatever we want to call it. That is where our true power comes from. Now, I'm a very linear, logical person, and I've always spent a lot of time up here. So for me, it's been a challenge to really move down into my heart space and go, no, this is where I need to be. This is where my true power is, because we can do all our goal setting and all the rest, and that's great. I'm not saying don't do it at all. And there's this balance of how much is up here, how much is your heart, how much is being guided by your intuition and all that. And just like everything else, there's a magic formula for you, and you need to discover what that is. You need to go on your own journey and work on it. So it's using those tools, and those are my favorite ones. Journaling is obviously a good one, bringing in meditation, and anything that can help you reflect on yourself and see, okay, this is where I am, this is what's happening. Creating that awareness, creating that, being the observer, observing what's happening in your body, because as you've said, there is a physical reaction in your body. Where is it? What is happening? Be aware of that. Be aware of how you're feeling, and be willing to voice that, because we're so scared to say, I'm feeling really scared at the moment. I'm really worried about how I'm going to pay my next mortgage payment. State that, let it know. You don't have to go and tell everybody about it, but actually writing it down, acknowledging and going, yep, that is what I'm scared about. Right, let's tap on it. Let's work through that. Where are you feeling it in your body? Allowing it and being willing. So it's a choice. You can come into a session, we can have a fantastic session. If you're not willing to create change, then you're not going to make any progress. And being willing to create change means taking a different practical action as well. Because if you're wanting to buy a house or start saving for your retirement, if you don't start doing something towards it, and it can be something as simple as opening a savings account and putting $1 in there a week. Now, $1 is not going to look after you in your retirement or buy you a house right now, but it's that act of saying, I'm willing to put some money away each and every week. And you start off small, so it seems like, okay, oh yeah, I can do it. I can increase this to $10, $20. Before you know it, suddenly you're finding money where you didn't have it before, or you start making different choices. Do I really need 20 pairs of shoes? Do I need to buy these pairs of shoes? Or is it more important for me to put that money towards my new home, my retirement fund, or something else? And it's becoming conscious, that conscious awareness of how you're spending your money. Are you spending it in alignment with what you say is important to you? Because there's what we say is important to us, and then there's what we actually do.
And so putting that $1 a week in your bank account is saying, basically, I'm willing and I'm doing it, I'm taking action, and
Yeah.
that actually creates a foundation for
Yeah.
expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a starting point, and that's what you need, is a starting point.
Yeah.
I don't know how big it's going to grow, how quickly it's going to grow, but you said to the universe, okay, I'm serious about this. This is my retirement fund, my new home fund, and I'm going to call that that account that, so that I can look at it. And you don't go when suddenly you get an unexpected bill, oh, thank goodness, I've got $1,000 in my new home account, I'll just pull it out. You go, no, it's my new home account. I need to find this money from somewhere else to pay this bill. So it's that conscious decision, like, no, that money was put aside for a very specific purpose. Being true to yourself, honoring what your needs are.
Mm, I love that. Thank you. And I want to, at this point, also just take the opportunity to share that you have a YouTube channel where you take people through tapping on different. Can you just name some of the topics that you've done recently?
Um, People are scared to look at their bank account,
Hmm.
allowing in more abundance. I have some just on the basics of what EFT is and talking about the negative stuff, and people are very scared to talk about that because they go, oh my God, I'm going to attract more of that negativity in. And then just some simple ways that you can actually use tapping in your day-to-day life.
Mm. So I'm going to put that resource, and I think it's just under your name, Tamsin
Yeah.
Young, and have that as a resource so that if you're not familiar with tapping or you want to really start to shift your beliefs and thoughts and energy around money, you can go and do a tapping because they're quite short and just really doable. So I recommend that to anyone that's watching to just go and have a look and do some tapping and do it consistently and just see what happens. Yeah. So I'm going to add that to the resource in this video.
Thank you.
So I'm curious about one other thing, and I always hesitant to bring it up, and it is about this. I have this sort of conflict about, some people are meant to make $1 million. It's almost like it's their destiny, and they just have to, find that way to do that, and they might have to remove their money stories, and then, then they go for it and it happens or whatever. But I also think that there are some souls who aren't meant to make $1 million, but that doesn't mean they're not meant to live a prosperous life. Can you just touch on that a little bit for me?
Okay. I'll
I
try and
mean,
keep it
prosperous,
short.
I should say money, like abundance of money.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's not their soul's purpose.
Yeah. And I think it's important that the first thing that you have to know is what kind of a lifestyle do you want to live? Because there is a lot of hype about, first of all, you have to get your 6-figure income, and then you have to, once, as soon as you've hit that, you must move to your 7-figure income. And I always ask, why? There's nothing wrong with making $1 million. I don't have an aversion to it, but why are you wanting to do it? And you may be able to create the lifestyle that you want, and you may be able to create the change in the world that you want by earning $50,000 a year and living in a little cabin up in the forest in the mountains or something. You have everything that you need there, and you are as happy as anything in there. You create your change by writing books, you have your own food, and you're totally self-sufficient, and you don't need that much money, but you can still create change through that. And you are as happy as anything. Why do you need to make $1 million? So, yep, absolutely. Some people have that they have to do something big. That is who they are. They have this big personality. They're going to go out there and they're just going to be an absolute force to be reckoned with. Everybody's going to know their name. Oprah Winfrey comes to mind, that you just go out there and they are just a mover and shaker, and they're going to do amazing things. We're not all born to be that. Could we do it? Yes, but it may not make us happy. So there's that balance of, what do I want to do? What kind of a life do I want to have? And what is going to allow me to create that? And do I need to have that much money to do it? Because if you don't need that much money, why are you doing it? And when you're looking at making $1 million, I think it was Jim Rohn said, it's not to get the $1 million, it's the person who you become by earning that $1 million. But you can become that person by earning 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, whatever it is. So it's not about the money. It's never about the money. It's our beliefs around it. It's our belief that we have to have 100,000, we have to have $1 million before we'll be happy. I say no. Who do you want to be, and what do you need to be that person? And is that making $1 million? lights your fire, go for it. But so long as you're doing it from the right reason, not like, oh my God, if I don't have $1 million in the bank, if I don't have $1 million business, if my turnover isn't $1 million, people are going to look at me as a failure. They're going to go, why should I listen to her when she hasn't done it herself? So there is no right or wrong with it. And you don't have to have $1 million. You don't have to have that as a right. I've ticked that box. I've made $1 million. Who cares? Because a lot of people can make $1 million and be miserable.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. That's very clear. And I think, if you're in the online space, if you are an entrepreneur, sometimes, there is this thing about having to make so much money. And as Tamsin has said, thank you so much that this is about, just what's right for you. Like, what is you being in your power? What does that look like? What does that lifestyle look like? And I deeply appreciate all your wisdom that you've brought in today, Tamsin. Yeah.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for the
Yeah.
invitation.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time.